The Earth was a ruin. Once teeming with life, color, and the hum of civilization, now it lay broken and silent, a shadow of its former self. Vast, empty, and silent. Shadows stretched across the scarred land, dancing like mournful ghosts. The sun, when it appeared, cast a pale, sickly light, unable to warm the ground or lift the heavy gloom that hung over everything. Cities stood as graveyards of steel and stone, concrete bones piercing the gray sky. Only the wind spoke now, whispering through broken windows and over dust-choked plains. The echoes of laughter, of footsteps, of life had faded, leaving only memories etched into the ruins. Survivors huddled in remnants, speaking in hushed tones, fear their constant companion. Hunger gnawed at their bellies and the cold seeped into their bones. Yet sometimes a strange hope flickered, a desperate curiosity that refused to die, even in the bleakest of nights. They told stories in the fading light, legends born from despair. Around the fire, voices wove tales of what once was and what might still be. These stories were more than distraction, they were a lifeline, a way to remember and to dream. The most persistent, a figure called the man who couldn't die. His legend grew with every retelling, each version more fantastic than the last. Some called him a curse, others believed he held the key to their shattered existence. He was a phantom, a rumor, a hope that maybe, just maybe, something extraordinary still lingered in the world. His name was a question mark in the stale air, an enigma haunting the ruins. Elias listened to these whispers by firelight, the words settling deep within him. He wondered if the stories were true, or if they were simply the last wishful dreams of a dying world. To him, they were more than stories, they were a spark in the darkness. Each tale was a promise that something greater might still be possible, that hope could survive even here. The man who couldn't die. The name echoed in his thoughts, a mystery he felt compelled to solve. It became a beacon, calling him forward when everything else seemed lost. It became his compass, a truth he needed more than food or water. The legend was a thread he clung to, weaving purpose into days that might otherwise have been empty. The legend was a persistent hum, guiding his every thought. And so, Elias's journey began, one step at a time into the unknown, chasing the echo of a hope that refused to die. Elias lived in the last city, a fragile camp patched with scrap and concrete. Inside, life was a careful routine, hope flickering like a candle in a storm. Elias was an outsider, searching not for food but for understanding. He collected fragments of old books, faded maps and rumors. The legend of the man who couldn't die became his obsession. The city's safety was a cage. The truth, he felt, lay beyond its walls. Despite warnings of poisoned lands and desperate souls, Elias resolved to leave. His search for truth was a journey he had to undertake alone. The wild unknown called to him. The day Elias left, the city gates closed behind him with a heavy thud. The sound echoed in the empty streets, a final punctuation to the life he once knew. He paused for a moment, feeling the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders, then turned his back on the only home he'd ever known. Before him stretched the silent expanse of a ruined world, a wasteland where hope seemed as thin as the air itself. The sky was a dull, endless gray, and the ground beneath his boots crunched with the remnants of a forgotten civilization. The air was thin, tinged with metal. His mask offered little comfort, but it was all that stood between him and the toxic wind. Twisted trees clawed at the sky, their branches like the fingers of ghosts reaching for something lost. Nature was reclaiming the scars of humanity with harsh indifference, swallowing roads and buildings alike. No animals, no birdsong, only the wind whistling through the emptiness, carrying with it the memory of a world that once was alive. Elias carried little: water, dried food, and the weight of his questions. Each step was heavy, not just from the supplies on his back, but from the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The image of the man who couldn't die, a legend whispered in the city's darkest corners, fueled his steps and gave him purpose. He walked through skeletons of towns, past rusted cars and hollow buildings that once echoed with laughter. Faded photographs in the debris told stories of lives interrupted, of families who vanished without a trace. Every shattered window and broken door was a reminder of the world that had been lost in a single terrible moment. Each ruin was a graveyard, and Elias a solitary mourner. The landscape was a constant reminder of what had been lost, and of the loneliness that now defined existence. Yet in the silence he found a strange sense of resolve, a determination to keep moving forward. Yet he pressed on, driven by a need that transcended survival, a hope that somewhere beyond the ruins, answers waited for those brave enough to seek them. Days blurred into weeks. Loneliness became his shadow. The journey was relentless, a trudge through endless desolation. Then, strange occurrences, flickers of light in dead buildings, distant music, shimmering air. Reality felt thin, as if it could tear at any moment. Broken technology littered the land, drones twitching, screens flashing cryptic messages. The world was not just dead, it was glitching, corrupted. These glitches were subtle, insidious, hinting at a deeper wrongness. Elias felt watched, not by people but by something in the broken code of reality. The silence grew charged, the air heavy with unseen eyes. The dangers were not what he expected, they were woven into the world itself. The fabric of reality was fraying. Elias followed a feeling eastward, intuition guiding his steps. Days led him to a ruined cathedral, its spire defiant against the sky. The cathedral, immense and decayed, retained a strange majesty. Light streamed through shattered stained glass, casting fractured rainbows on dust. Inside, the silence was sacred, thick with faded memories. In the center, beneath the ruined dome, sat a figure, perfectly still. Elias knew this was the man who couldn't die. His heart pounded. This was the culmination of his journey. He stepped forward, boots echoing on stone. The figure did not move. Fear and anticipation warred within Elias. He had found him. Now, what would he say? The man turned, eyes ancient and unbearably sad. His voice was soft, dust-laden. "You have come far." Their conversation began as if resuming an old dialogue. Elias asked about the world, the past, the reason for it all. The man's answers were riddles, poems, speaking of cycles, echoes, memories. He spoke of endings and things that refused to end. The words twisted, bending the air in the cathedral. Sometimes Elias understood, sometimes meaning slipped away. The man spoke of choices, of a great weariness, of paths not taken. The conversation felt outside of time. The man seemed to know Elias's deepest fears and feelings. The cathedral responded. Light shifted, shadows writhed, walls shimmered. Reality itself seemed to bend with their words. As they spoke, the world frayed further. The cathedral walls shimmered, light flickered wildly. The ground trembled, as if reality's foundations were loose. Suddenly, images flashed before Elias's eyes. Sunlit fields, laughter, pain, darkness. Memory surged, intensely real, out of sequence, overwhelming. Each vision vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by the man's sorrowful gaze. The cathedral dissolved, stone walls turning transparent, then mist. The man's form wavered, becoming a projection of light and shadow. Fear pierced Elias, but beneath it, understanding dawned. This was not real. Something profound was happening, something beyond his journey. The world was unraveling. The man's voice cut through the chaos. "This place, this conversation, it is not what you believe." The cathedral crumbled into a gray void. Only Elias and the man remained. Comprehension struck. He was not in a ruined world. The last city, the journey, constructs of memory. This was a fragment, replaying in his final moments. The glitches were flaws in his own consciousness, not the world. The landscape was his dying mind, the man who couldn't die, a figment, a guide, a reflection. The truth was about himself, his own ending. The man's eyes held understanding. The journey had always been inward. The desolate world was the state of his own spirit. As the illusion faded, the man's face changed, becoming Elias's own, older and wearier. The lines of time etched themselves across his features, each wrinkle a memory, each shadow a regret. In that moment, the boundary between past and present dissolved, and Elias saw himself not as he wished to be, but as he truly was, marked by the weight of endless years. The eyes that looked back were his, filled with loneliness and exhaustion. They held the stories of countless days and nights, of hopes lost and dreams abandoned. In their depths, a silent plea lingered, a longing for release from the cycle he could not escape. The truth struck: he was the man who couldn't die. The realization was both a curse and a revelation, echoing through the empty corridors of his mind. Not immortal, but trapped in the final moment of consciousness, refusing to let go. He was suspended in a liminal space, unable to move forward, unable to return. His mind created this endless loop, searching for an answer he already knew, every memory replayed, every regret magnified, as if hoping repetition might bring peace. The cycle would repeat, always leading to this realization. No matter how he tried to change the outcome, the ending was always the same. He was the architect of his own unending story. The walls around him bore the marks of his desperate attempts to understand, to break free. The image of his older self faded, the void enveloped all. Darkness crept in, swallowing the fragments of his identity, leaving only echoes behind. Only a whisper remained: "You are the man who couldn't die." The words trembled in the emptiness, fragile yet unyielding. The words echoed, not as accusation but as truth. They reverberated through the silence, a reminder of the fate he could not escape. The story would play out again and again. Each repetition a testament to the persistence of memory and the impossibility of forgetting. The silence was not quite silence. It was filled with the faintest echoes of what once was, the softest reminders of a life that refused to end. And perhaps as you close this story, you might wonder about the loops you inhabit in your own mind. Are there echoes you cannot silence, stories you cannot let go? In the end, we all carry our own unending echoes, searching for meaning in the silence.